Hey there, I've been using Chat GPT a lot the past couple of weeks, and I'm pretty impressed on the kinds of things it's able to do. I thought it was just going to be a normal chatbot that you play with and then you're done, but actually you can do a lot of interesting things. I used it one time to craft a formal letter that I was going to give to my HOA. I also use it a lot like a second Google. If I have some information or if I have a question, I would just ask ChatGPT. One of the things I've been thinking a lot lately is how beginner programmers can use ChatGPT to get better at coding. And one of the things that I came up with is that they can use ChatGPT to come up with some coding challenges or coding projects. So let's go to ChatGPT and ask it for a beginner coding project. By the way, if you're wanting to grow in your programming journey, I've got a free guide for you called my Personalized Finance App Programming Guide. It's a free PDF coding guide that you can download in the link in the description that teaches you how to build your first app. And in this first app, you take your credit card transactions and then you can categorize them into different budget categories so you know how much you're spending in each category. And you can still do this project even if you don't have a credit card. I have a sample transactions file that you can use that you can play with in your program. This app is really fun to build and it's really practical. And if you download it and pay attention to what it says, you'll definitely learn some fundamental programming concepts. Alright, it's given me 15 different coding projects, and I think these are all really good and simple ones that a beginner should be able to do. And some of these we've actually done, like the Fibonacci sequence, I've done that, and Hello World, I've done that on almost every video that I've done. Okay, let's go with the calculator one, because the calculator, I can add on to it later and do the factorial calculator, for example. Okay, I'm going to make a file calculator.c and I'm going to do this coding challenge in C. Alright, I'm going to ask ChatGPT for some sample code. Let's look at this code that ChatGPT generated. Okay, I'm going to put the ChatGPT's code in here and see if it runs. I think the exit operation, if you want to quit, you just press Q. Whoa, it actually works. Okay, this is not bad. This is pretty good, but he's using functions, and if you're a beginner, I don't know if you know how to use functions yet. When the program starts, it comes to main. The user is going to put in an operation, and then the operation will get stored into this variable, and that happens here in the scanf. ChatGPT gives you the options on what to do. And then there's a while loop that just runs infinitely because it's always 1. The condition is always 1, so it's always true. And then if the user puts in Q, it breaks out of the while loop. And when it breaks out of the while loop, it just exits. But if it's not Q, it's going to continue, and then it's going to ask for the first number and the second number. And then the first number and second number are stored into num1 and num2, which are both doubles, and doubles are good for calculations. And then they call the function add num1 2. You can actually just, if you want to make this more beginner friendly, you can actually just do this. And then for subtract, you can do this. And then for multiply, just do that. And then divide, you can do that. Yeah, let's see if that works. Plus, the first number is 1, 3. Works. Okay, and since I replaced those, I can actually just remove these functions now because I'm not using them. So I think this is more beginner friendly. So you should be able to get enough help from ChatGPT for these coding challenges. I kind of don't like the way that ChatGPT implemented this though. So let's do it our own way, okay? Let's remove the options and let's just print calculator application. We'll scan in a string, not just one character. So to make a string, you have to do char. Let's make it a string of 10. Okay, here I'm going to ask the user to enter a calculation. And then they're going to enter their calculation and it's going to be stored in this operation string. And let's remove this for now. We don't want to break condition yet. So ideally what I'm hoping is the user will type in something like 5 plus 7. And this is going to be inside the string operation. So let's just try that first. And then we're just going to test. This is just for testing. So we're going to test to see if I type this in, is it going to print that? Okay, we're gonna do the operation that we were hoping to do, and we'll put it in here into the calculation, and see it only prints 5, so that means the plus and the 7 were not able to be printed in. Well, let's try it again and use a bigger number. Let's say 56 plus 7. Okay, so it only reads the first one, the first number. So we can actually, instead of it being operation, let's just put our first number there. You can read in the first number, but the plus sign and the 7, it doesn't read it in. Okay, let's try this. Let's see if we can scan in the first number and then scan in the operation. And then we're going to print the first number and print the operation after. Alright, so we got the operation here and we got the first number there. Now let's try to scan in the second number. Scan in the second number, and then we're gonna print the second number. Alright, let's run that. Okay, so we got it. So we got the first number, the second number, the operation itself, and then the second number. So we can take the switch case statement that Chat GPT had here. We're basically doing the same thing that Chat GPT did, but the only difference is that the way we're getting the numbers and the operation is different, but the actual processing of the data is done the same way. So let's put it here. So what's going on here is the calculation is actually done here, and whatever's calculated is printed in this part. And if you don't know what this is, well, it's just giving the format of how the number is printed. We can ask ChatGPT what it means. Okay, the %.2 specifies the number's precision, so that means we want 2 decimal places. And then LF just indicates that we're working with a double data type. L stands for long, the F stands for float. That's actually a good explanation. So let's try that. Okay, let's do the 5 plus 7 that I mentioned earlier. 5 plus 7, and there you go. 5 plus 7. Now we don't need, this is just debug code, we can just remove it, but it gives you the result here. The only problem here is that we can't exit. Now we need to come up with our break condition. Okay, so let's remove the printfs here. These are just debug code. Okay, so how would the user be able to tell the program that it doesn't want to continue anymore? So after the result is printed, I think we should just do inside the while loop, inside this while loop, what we can do is we can add a condition. We can ask a question here, and then you can say yes or no, and then we can scanf the response. Okay, I'm gonna make a variable called calculate again. So it's just gonna be another char. So if he answers no, then we break and we get out of the while loop. This break is for the while loop. We also have to do this to store the input into the variable. Okay. 9 plus 9. Do you want to do another calculation? Yes. Okay, 9 plus 7. Okay, now let's try no. Okay, so now we exit. I don't really like while loops that have a 1 as the condition because it's an infinite while loop. What I like to do is I like to make it based on a variable. We can actually use the variable calculate again. So we'll just use this condition. If calculate again is not n, then we'll go into this while loop. So we need to initialize it to not n. So let's initialize it to yes. And then now we don't even need this if statement because the while loop is going to check to make sure that it's not n. If it is n, it's going to skip everything inside the while loop and it's just going to exit to return 0. Okay, let's try it. Okay, and then say yes. Then 5 plus 2, 7. Okay, now let's say no. Okay, now it exits. So this is more readable, I think, in my opinion. And it prevents your program from running infinitely, and you don't have to do another if statement here. Alright, just to summarize this code, we include the standard input-output library. We have our main function. We have two chars, one for the operation, one for the calculate again char. Then we have double num1 and double num2. Those are the two numbers that we're going to do the calculation for the calculator. We tell the user that this is a calculator application. Then we go into this while loop, and we ask the user to input their calculation. Then we scan in their calculation. I like this. I personally like this way of scanning it better than ChatGPT's way of doing it. Then we do the same thing that ChatGPT did. We take the operation, use the switch case statement. If the operation is addition, we add. If it's subtraction, we subtract. If it's multiply, we multiply. Divide, we divide, and then we print the result here. And then we ask if the user wants to do another calculation, and if they say yes, or if they don't say no, then we go back to the top, and then the while loop will see if the user said no, then we'll just exit the while loop and return 0. Let's try asking ChatGPT what he thinks about my code. Oh, okay. So he applauded me for my initialization. User interface is clear and easy to understand. Prompts the user for input, provides a result. Error handling, you've included a default case. I just took that from ChatGPT. Input validation, your code assumes that the user will enter valid input. It would be a good idea to add input validation, especially when taking numeric input. For example, you can check if the user enters a valid number. Okay, so this is something we didn't do, but that's very important. I didn't want to make the video too long, so I didn't do this part. Floating point precision, you're formatting the result to display it with 2 decimal places, which is good for readability. Loop control, use of calculate again variable to control the loop is a good way to allow the user to perform multiple calculations. Your code is well structured, easy to understand, functional for its intended purpose. If you want to extend this further, you could consider adding more advanced features like handling more operations and allowing calculations with more than 2 numbers, or providing history of calculations. Okay, wow. So this is really good feedback from ChatGPT, I'd say. Alright, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you can start to see how ChatGPT can actually help you with some coding challenges. It can give you good coding challenges and then give you an example, and then it could even give you some feedback on the code that you wrote. So I think these are all really useful ways that we can use ChatGPT to get better at coding. I'd love to hear from you too. Are you using ChatGPT to get better at programming? I'd love to hear what kinds of ways you're using ChatGPT to get better. And also, if you have other coding challenges that you've done, I'd love to hear from you too. Which ones have you done that have been really helpful in helping you get better at programming? I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Alright, that's it for this week's video. I hope it was really helpful for you. And if you have any other questions, feel free to let me know. Until next time, peace.